The fixtures are here and the new Premier League season. Here we go. Uh, it hasn't actually felt that long. Almost a month now since Premier League ended. Time has passed quite fast. Month and a half left until kickoff, and now we know who plays whom and when. So these are the fixtures of Game Week One. You know, as I've seen on Twitter. Once again, Arsenal playing the first game of the season. They played Brentford away last year, and the general perception was that Brentford would win. No one was really surprised when they did, and I feel it is the same this time. Even though Arsenal have improved, I think they kept on improving right, throughout the season last time around. But Palace did beat them 3-0 at home. Even when Arsenal were on a decent run and they were fighting for the Champions League spot. That was a key result, in my opinion, and it played a big part in eventually Arsenal not making it to the Champions League. And on the opening weekend, I think the home team, which has been more than decent under Patrick Vieira, could once again have the advantage. So, generally, we like owning someone in the very first game. I'm not sure if I want an Arsenal player or a Palace player. Totally undecided. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Um, on Saturday, we have Fulham versus Liverpool as the first match. Now, this looks like a cakewalk for Liverpool on paper, but away to a newly promoted side is always a bit of a tricky fixture. Salah, once again, would think is a very strong captain choice on the opening day. Trent, everyone will have Trent. I don't think the price matters. 8.5. I'll have Trent for 10. Maybe if you're not a Liverpool fan, you won't, but it's a no bargain. I'll have him in my team, no doubt. The third Liverpool slot could be tricky. We could have, Diaz. Jota doesn't look like an option this time. Maybe Darwin Nunez. Maybe the double up on defense. Robertson, Van Dijk, Joel Matip was immense last year. Or we could just wait and keep the slot open, and then maybe if someone becomes essential, then we slot them into our teams. It could also be a debut for the very talented Fabio Carvalho against his former side. Really excited to watch him play. Really talented young guy. Same goes for Harry Wilson. He's up against his former side too. Uh, Point of proof, maybe. We've seen him play for Bournemouth in the Premier League before, and he was not really bad. I think he scored I think he scored 7 goals, which was not a bad return for a young player playing for a team that got relegated. And then there's Mitrovic. Of course, he's supposed to be highly owned, but with the opening fixture against Liverpool, that may just change now. But he scored so many goals in the Championship last year, and Fulham looked like a completely different team from what they did in the Premier League the last 2 times they came up. This time, I'm actually backing Fulham to stay up. I think they've got a good squad, they've got a good manager, and they've got a very good team balance as well. If they can sort out the defense a bit, I think Fulham could be a force. They could actually finish, somewhere around 15th, 10 to 15th, in my opinion. And Mitrovic, if Fulham play to his strengths, we know he's a goal scorer. He's going to get the goals. Another Fulham player I'm monitoring is Maynor Solomon, Israel international. Now, he could be the replacement of Carvalho in that team. A very attacking midfielder, completely unknown. So if he's like 5 or 5.5, I may very strongly consider him. Coming to the afternoon kickoffs, Spurs versus Southampton. Southampton's high line is the standout fixture. Son will be highly owned and captained. Do we go for Kane as well? May not be the worst choice, but it does have the August curse. Some people believe in it, some don't. I do. So I'm not so sure if I want to start the season with Harry Kane, even if Tottenham have decent fixtures in the first few weeks. Uh, Other than them, Kulusevski, he looked really good last season. His price should increase. Maybe a fit again Matt Doherty as well. If Perisic is classified as a defender, I think he's going to be very highly owned as well. So tripling up on Spurs, not the worst idea. The other fixtures in this time slot: Villa away to Bournemouth, away to another promoted team. Maybe Watkins, Philip Coutinho, the defenders, even Emi Martinez. He could be cheaper than last season. I don't think he's going to be 5-5. He shouldn't be 5-5. FPL should be reasonable. And Villa have actually bought in two very quality players to guard that defense. Um, so there could be a few clean sheets, and I'm strongly considering someone like Matty Cash. He could go big this season if Villa can keep a few clean sheets. I think yes, he's got the attacking potential. He to provide not just assists, goals as well. I think so. Yeah, we are going to have a few Villa players throughout the season, I'm very sure. Then Leeds versus Wolves, purely wait and watch. It could be anything. I have been reading a bit of Wolves forums, uh, and in spite of a not so bad season, there seems like a lot of anger against Bruno Lage. Maybe the kind of rotation, the kind of team selections is made towards the end of the season. The defense just fell apart. A lot of players look disinterested. So Wolves are generally, uh, at least in the defense, Wolves players are generally good assets. But let's see how they shape up, and then we can decide. Leeds, on the other hand, we do not know if Rafinha would be around. How will they adapt without him? So another team we got to monitor over preseason. They have actually signed a few quality players, so maybe they're going to be better than last season. Let's see. Then Leicester versus Brentford. Again, very very unpredictable. Leicester definitely need to improve from last season. Rogers just seemed clueless throughout about his team selection and even his preferred formation. He has three quality forwards and he barely played, two of them together, and it just, they just never got into any kind of form. I hope there is more clarity this time, that there is the preseason to work that out. Uh, but the thing with Leicester is they generally start really well. Madison had a really good end to the season. I'll be strongly looking at him. Vardy generally early on, no one considers him because of his price, and then he bangs in a hat trick or two. For Brentford, uh, I think Ericsson will be the key, but it doesn't look like at the moment that he's accepting their contract offer. I'm not so sure they can bring in another player of that quality for the amount of money that they can afford to spend in the market. So, it strongly depends on whether they can keep hold of Ericsson. Other than that, Ivan Tony, he did settle down towards the end of the season. If we're looking at a budget forward, at just if we're going with just one budget forward up front, I think Tony is the standout for me. Then next up, Newcastle. Newcastle is a side I'm really interested in as well. The first game is at home against Nottingham Forest. It's a completely different scenario from facing a team like Forest away. Uh, a fit Callum Wilson, you know, I think he's another player who is going to be very highly owned. He's going to be a template pick. Bruno Guimaraes as well. I think he surprised a lot of us last season after he came on. We thought he would be a number six. He would be a defensive midfielder. He was not. He was getting into the box a lot, and he was taking his chances. The guy just looks like a very good finisher, and if he's priced somewhere around 5.5, even 6, I think is a fair price for someone like that. Um, there's Kieran Trippier as well. I'd consider him as is probably not going to be more than 5. Again, I hope. If he's 5, I think he's definitely going to be in my team. And of course, he's got to be not injured as well. He's on set pieces, and Newcastle have got some tall defenders, and he can take a pretty decent free kick as well. So yeah. The last game on Saturday is Everton versus Chelsea. Now, if this was a home game for Chelsea, I was strongly thinking about a defense double up from game week 1. Everton, even at their very worst last season, were not exactly bad at home. And on the flip side, Chelsea were generally very strong defensively. At the moment, they barely have any defenders. Aspilicueta, I'm not so sure he's going to stay. There is a contract offer. Um, Marcus Alonso wants to leave. Rudiger is gone. Christensen is gone. So they have to buy some defenders and make sure that uh, those players settle down as well. We might even see Chelsea going four at the back, which diminishes the appeal of the two fullbacks a bit, at least in my opinion. At the same time, uh, whenever they've played four at the back last season, I think they struggled defensively. So this could actually end up as a fair contest. The last two fixtures on Sunday, United under a new manager play Brighton, who absolutely smashed them last season. Now, I'm not expecting massive changes at United. Ronaldo is still there, and that means the rest of the players will just try to pick him out. And again, it's just Cristiano Ronaldo or nobody from that side. The kind of players they're targeting, the way that they're approaching the market, it doesn't look very hopeful, and it doesn't look like they've learned a lot from some of the transfer disasters that they've made of late. uh, if it was up against Bournemouth or Nottingham Forest, maybe I'd consider Ronaldo. Against Brighton, which is a team which is tough to break down, very tough to play against for anybody, I'm not so sure. The final game is West Ham versus City. Again, not the easiest start for Man City, but we know that they will do well eventually. So this wouldn't really put me off from having City players right from the start. The players I'd want anyway from game week 2. I don't really mind having them from game week 1. De Bruyne and Cancelo, I think, are the standouts. Joao Cancelo could be 7.5 this time, I don't know, but still I think we can start the season with him, and then if things do not go well, we can see. Then of course, do we want Erling Haaland? Do we want another defender? Let's see. Now, even someone like Rodri delivered consistent points towards the end of the last season. He's probably the one City player that no one remotely considers, and he scored a fair amount of points towards the end towards the end of last season. I'll probably not want to burn the midfield slot on him, but again, someone I'll not completely ignore. If there are budget constraints, why not? Why not? So, all right, now this is a fixture taker made by Holly Shand. She's of course someone who comes regularly on the FPL show. She's famous. She's popular. So she put this up on her Twitter page. You can follow her if you want to. I'll put her ID in description. Now you should take this with a pinch of salt. This is kind of subjective. Greens, reds, grays. It could be seen differently by different people. A lot of it is dependent on form, performance from last season, which could be very different from the performance this season. What I'd say is that we shouldn't focus too much on long term. First few weeks, and that's all. While making our initial drafts, that is what we should be considering. Remember, we're not trying to make a squad full of season keepers here. But early on, people are trigger friendly. There are a lot more active players. There will be price fluctuations. Some players, if they're low owned in game week 1, and then suddenly they score a lot of points in the first 2-3 game weeks, and everyone starts bringing them in, the price could just shoot up. So we should take all these things into consideration while making our squad for the first week. So, guys, the game should be launched soon now that the fixtures are out. Uh, I do not have the technical efficiency or patience to make virtual drafts with assumed prices. So, we just got to wait, and when the game is live, we can keep on experimenting until the deadline of Game Week 1. Only thing I'd consider is I'll look at the opening 4 to 6 games while picking the players, not more than that. We often just focus on players who have a good game week 1 fixture, and a player who perhaps has a difficult game on the opening week, and then from game week 2 onwards they have a good run. That kind of a player often gets ignored. I'm always guilty of this myself. Every season I do this mistake. So I'll try to take care of that this time. So that's it then. That's it. Big day. Hopefully I'll learn a bit more of editing, recording, and once the game starts, come up with more content. Lots of background noises here. I live just next to a main street, and there is a lot of traffic right now. So I don't know how to remove this background noises. So if you could listen, this is the longest video I've recorded so far. So if you could listen so far, uh, just I want to thank you for listening, and please come back. Please come back.